Ben Bernanke faced off against Republicans in Congress today with his semi-annual testimony on the state of the economy. Paul Ryan and his colleagues say that Bernanke's policies are going to lead to rampant inflation. I'm Jack Otter, here with Jill Schlesinger. Jill, are we going to see a remake of the 70s if Bernanke keeps this up?
Well, I don't see any evidence of that right now. In fact, prices are trending down over the last 6 months. And there's a big component of inflation called wages, right? How much money we make. We all complain that wages have been frozen for the middle class for a decade. Well, that's actually a big cap on inflation. Without inflation of wages, it's hard to imagine a world where we see runaway inflation in this economy.
But we know that the Federal Reserve sometimes has trouble knowing when to turn off the spigot of cheap money. So if this keeps up, is there a danger down the road prices could spike?
Absolutely, but there really is no evidence today to suggest that. And I think that may also have a lot to do with where we are in the economy, that, you know what, we've got a slow, pokey economy. I know that stinks for everybody, but that's one where you don't see spikes in inflation for wages. It's part of the reason why we've got such a problem with jobs in this country.
Well, speaking of that, the Fed has what wonks call a dual mandate, which means in addition to keeping an eye on inflation, keeping it near that 2% target, the Fed is supposed to try to promote policies that will, in fact, promote employment. And Democrats say that's a great idea. The more people are employed, the more taxes the government collects, and therefore the deficit goes down. Is it a contradiction to say we're going to watch inflation on the one hand, but we're also going to have loose money that promotes employment?
Well, it is a little bit of a contradiction, and what we're hoping is that a bunch of PhDs in economics have the ability to weigh which one needs more attention at a given time. You're absolutely right, though, that it's a very hard thing to make a delicate balance there. What is interesting is, we got some jobs data out, and over the last month or so, things have shown some improvement. So we know that last month unemployment was at 8.5%, 200,000 jobs were created. The weekly claims are coming in better than expected over the last few weeks. So these are good things. The problem is we still have 13 million people out of work, and there's really nothing that the Fed can do. It's not like Ben Bernanke has a magic jobs fairy wand that he waves over the economy. So I think that there's a real issue here in what our expectations are. Maybe we have unrealistic expectations.
So coming out of not only a recession, but a credit crisis where everyone was spending money they didn't have, is this typical or is this worse than usual, the slow recovery we're seeing?
It is actually worse than usual, and it's typical, though, of these kinds of recessions. This wasn't a garden variety recession. Even if you go back to the dot-com boom and bust, that wasn't even close to what we just lived through. And unfortunately, experts say it takes 7 to 10 years to get out of this kind of a recession. We're kind of smack dab in the middle of it, depending on which clock you're using. And unfortunately, there's not much we can do to fight against it. We're hoping that the Fed promotes good policies. We're hoping that lawmakers do the right thing. But in the end, if maybe we all get our minds around this idea that we got some of a ways to go, it might be easier to get through it. Regardless, we are going to find out a lot of information in the coming weeks, and we are going to have a big jobs report tomorrow. So stay tuned to Money Watch and CBSNews.com. We'll be following these stories. Thanks for watching.